first order of business, I think has something to do with Mr. Gist, since he's spring-loaded in his chair there. Pre-development work session, fiscal year 2019, capital budget, and fiscal year 2020 to 2024 capital improvement programs. This will be our work session.
Yep, that's it. Do you want me to hide this?
Yeah, hide this. I've got it.
Yeah, you got it.
Let's sit down next to me.
Sure.
Good evening.
The purpose of this presentation is to alert you, the Board of Education, and the public of the Howard County Public School System FY 2019 capital budget submission process. In front of you on the screen is a timeline of key dates. Tonight marks the beginning of the 2019 capital budget process, as I said, and I'm reiterating process, with a public hearing and a board work session. The superintendent's proposed FY 2019 capital budget and FY 2020 through 2024 capital improvement program will be presented to the board on September 7th. Following this presentation, there are a number of key dates regarding Board of Public Works hearings, work sessions, approvals, as well as state and county meetings and deadlines highlighted above. The process ends with the adoption of the FY 2019 capital budget and 5-year CIP sometime in May. Looking forward to the superintendent's proposed budget for this year, we will request final funding for the Waverly Elementary School project and elementary school number 42 in FY19. We would also like to request construction funding for the now Talbot Springs Elementary School replacement and the Oakland Mills Middle School renovation, as well as planning funding for the Ellicott Mills Middle School addition. In addition to the specific school projects, the FY 2019 proposed capital budget will include requests to fund 8 ongoing projects that happen year after year. And this year, to further identify the concerns we are facing with the deferred maintenance needs of our school system and to provide additional clarity in the proposed use of capital funds, this budget request will identify specific projects in greater detail and school locations in the systemic renovations line instead of a general lump sum. We do have some challenges.
Besides the little writing?
Pardon me?
Besides the tiny writing?
Oh, I'm sorry. As we begin to discuss the 2019 capital budget, there are some factors to keep in mind. A few years ago, the prevailing wage and lead requirements significantly increased the overall project cost by approximately 15 to 19%. These elements are now being considered in the state calculations on the cost of school construction. Let me explain that. In July of 2016, approximately a year ago, when we were constructing the FY 2018 budget cycle, the state cost per square foot was $265 for renovations and $315 for new construction. Midway through the FY 18 budget process, we received an unprecedented communication from the state that they were raising the square foot rate to $293 and $348 a square foot, respectively. Now, for the start of the FY 2019 budget cycle, the state has again released the cost of school construction from $302 for renovations to $360 a square foot for new construction. This is a tremendous 14% increase. The state local cost share percentage as you know, has been limited to 55% over the past 3 years for costs deemed eligible by the state. The state is currently recalculating this percentage, this participation percentage as we speak. While we are hopeful that it will increase, there is no guarantee. The county has decreased our funding by approximately 22%, or exactly 22% over the past 4 years. Preliminary discussions suggest no increase in funding for this year. And finally, as the county funding has decreased, our services over the same period are increasing. As an educational provider, we have increased costs due to increased school enrollments. We have raised our enrollment by 5% over the last 4 years, approximately 2,600 students. We have increase in costs of technology have increased approximately 5% over the same 4 years, and the increase in use of school facilities has increased by a 20% ratio. Thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Anybody? Yes. Ms. French?
We didn't have the PowerPoint, and it's not on board docs.
It is, it's under.
I can't find it.
It's under the second
So will you please
one.
go back
Yes.
to where you, I don't know, wherever the list of the buildings, school buildings were.
There you go.
All right. Why, the last time we did redistricting, Frank Aquino was chairman, and I remember very specifically, we worked very hard to relieve Ellicott Mills Middle School of their overcapacity, and we could not find a way in the redistricting models to do that. And so we had charged that an addition should go on Ellicott Mills. Why isn't it any further along? Why is it deferred to 2021?
Actually, the date of August 2021 is an update that was initiated by the feasibility study recommendation to August of 2021. I believe it had been deferred back as far as 2024.
I understand that, but I asked these questions last year too. Why isn't it any further along, given the fact that I think
It's
Cindy and
bursting
I
at
are
the
the only
seams.
ones left on the board that made that direction in the last redistricting?
What was the justification for pushing it back? Was
Yeah.
it purely financial, or did someone have some notion that there were going to be fewer?
Because it's been so overcrowded all these years.
It was purely financial. We had a constrained budget over the last few years, and we had to reprioritize some of the additions and buildings, and this is one of the ones that was pushed out into 2024.
Additionally, last year, we did pick up 2 additional classrooms there when we repurposed the recreation and parks rooms there.
Okay, so I'm going to make some people upset. But why then is Oakland Mills in front of it, when usually we talked about capacity being more pressing for funding than a renovation?
Well, currently, we have a $2.3 million set aside that has been given to us for the planning of the project probably about 4 years ago. I believe it was under the Ullman administration. That coupled with a strategic decision to address the needs of that building, which had been deferred significantly as well, Ms. French, was the basis of our decision. But we're proceeding with it now. Actually, that had been pushed back aside too. With the application a couple years ago of the 13th high school and to consider compensation for the funding of that, and with the rework, as championed by Dr. Martirano of the high school budget, we were able to realize that we had the funding in place to take on this project.
Okay. The thing is that what's very important is that the 22% decrease in funding from the county. And that's very critical. And so we will be yelled at during redistricting, as we are now, on emails, et cetera. But these are the hard choices that we have to make because of decisions that have been made in the past when we asked for funding and it was not recognized. So I just have to say that publicly. The other thing I need to say is that a lot of our schools need renovations, need assistance, et cetera. And I'm going to point out one of my former cluster elementary schools, the second oldest school in the county, and that's Guilford Elementary. It's a lovely community. The teachers are wonderful, got a great principal. But when I go there and like for simulated congressional hearings, the parents say to me, why are we always overlooked? Why don't we get a new school? So let's just do a for instance, like you did for Talbot Springs. Isn't there enough land on the Guilford property to build a new school there and replace it?
We would gladly take a look at that opportunity. That is one of the biggest criteria in building a school for replacement. The purpose of this opportunity tonight is to hear the board's discussions and wants and desires, so we will take that under consideration.
I would really love it because they've been so patient, and it's the second oldest. Of course, the oldest is West Friendship, but those parents came to us several years ago, and they want to reach their 100th. They're about, 7 years away from celebrating their 100th anniversary. But Guilford would like more attention, and I believe they would appreciate a new facility as well. So,
It's noted, ma'am.
Thank you. Anything else?
no, I just have to do my preaching about equity all around the county.
Okay. Ms. Coombs?
Where has Dunlogan Middle gone?
Dunlogan Middle is in some of the out years, but it is a project of consideration. I believe the projected completion date right now is 2022.
Okay, so there's no funding needed in FY19 for that?
That's correct.
Okay,
It
thank you.
hasn't dropped back,
Got it.
has it? I don't know, I'm asking. It hasn't dropped back, it was always 2022?
Actually, I think it moved forward a year.
Yeah, I think originally it was back and then it moved forward a year. So I believe it's 2022.
And that didn't affect the need for FY19?
No, it didn't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Delmont Small?
I'm going to ask the question that I'm sure others at home are wondering. What about the high school we need? The next
High school 13.
The high school 13.
High School 13, we're in a unique situation now where we've begun the preliminary planning process, but because we're not building a CTE high school and just a normal capacity high school, we don't need that long protracted planning period, and thus we can use efficiencies and not be planning for it right at this present time. We don't need quite as long to build it.
I'm sorry, what?
I don't agree with that, but it's not my turn yet.
The collective sigh heard around the county?
Well, I'm going to go off what she's, I'm sorry, my microphone is on, I'm just not near it. That's not going to go over well. So as you all know, we're in redistricting, and one of the major reasons redistricting is because we have high school capacity problems. Is there any way to move the high school up on the list.
You mean up in
Earlier.
front of
I apologize.
2023?
Now.
2022?
Now,
Now.
not tomorrow, but sooner, very sooner, as opposed to,
Are you saying an increase in the delivery date but to 2022? That would be.
Or sooner.
what would be the earliest?
Currently, we're 2024 right now.
It's-
That's the delivery date for the high school.
So we're-
Yeah, well, that's, how long is it going to take, since it's not a CTE high school, from the day that we
Well,
say move forward till the day that you hand the keys over to, Mr. Lamont back there?
Well, Mr. Washington and Ms. Kamen might argue with me on that, but generally, a high school of that size takes approximately 5 years.
To build?
Yes,
From beginning to end.
from beginning to end.
And that includes your
Cons-
planning.
Your planning and your state approvals and all of your approvals and the regulatory agency approvals.
And you've taken this planning money out because you don't think we need it because it's not CTE now, it's,
We don't need it on that particular project. We need it on the other projects. We're trying to be equitable with our distribution of funds.
Okay, I have what will probably seem as an odd question. There has been some, because again, it relates to redistricting and it relates to capital funding, is that there have been statements that have been made and people have asked regarding how accurate is it to say that if the county and the county government ends up changing APFO, the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance, that we, the school system, lose state school funding?
Okay, so, knowing some of all of everything that's going around on social media, and what limited I look at it, there's been a lot of testimony at the county regarding state-rated capacity versus local rated capacity. Howard County is an anomaly. We use our own local rated capacity. When we go to state funding, what we do is we look at the state-rated capacity for that particular school and its surrounding schools in order to determine the need. That's how the state determines money. With our projections at the high school level, we will have more students than seats by 2024. So that's with our projections. So we are going to continue to grow. Even with redistricting, we're still going to grow. And so that is where we are at the point in terms of having a new high school. So when we do our need for the state, we look at the projections 7 years out for that particular school and surrounding communities based on what's in the state-rated capacity. And so that's how the funding is determined. So if the county council changes adequate public facilities law, whether they go from 115% utilization, capacity utilization down to 110%, that wouldn't affect the state's rating for whether or not there's a need 7 years down the line. APFO is a law by the county that is used to determine when new development can go forward. We, as the school system, we inform that process, and by doing so, we are using our local rated capacities that are used for our projections, used for our feasibility study, used for our capital improvement project, to then inform the county's law. So I don't know if county council will have a discussion about state rated capacity versus local rated capacity, what's the difference and the like, and that direction. But ultimately, it's the board making that decision versus what type of capacity that they're going to be using in terms of adequate public facilities. But whatever that is, it has to be the same for the entire process, because then we will be in a situation where it's apples to oranges as opposed to apples in our process. So I hope I answered that question.
To follow up, so
Sure.
that I can make sure that I understood
Yeah.
the answer to the crazy,
It's not a crazy question. It's a good question.
Well, thank you. How nice of you to say. So we currently use our capacity formula? Is that a
Yes.
good way of saying it?
Yes, that's correct.
And currently APFO uses our capacity formula.
Yes, that's correct.
The current APFO law
Mm-hmm.
does not specify, it just says capacity, or there is no, is there the specificity within the existing APFO as to which to use, or is it?
No,
Squishy.
I don't believe so. I would have to go back and reread it. I've been reading it constantly for the last few weeks. I don't think there is a specificity, but it's a default to what our capacity rating is in
Okay.
our board policies. Again, because that's the tie between the capital improvement process with us versus the county.
But it still doesn't affect high schools, so
It still does not affect
Unless we
high
get that
school.
law
So
changed, it's
that's,
irrelevant.
yeah, you're correct, Ms. Coombs. The test at APFO is only at the elementary school individual, middle school
Right.
individual, and region, and it does not, it's not proposed right now to be at the high school level.
Okay. Now, back to this particular capacity. And if this is something that you think we should do offline, please say so.
Sure.
What is the difference? How does the state,
What's the difference between
Calculus.
state and local?
Yes.
Okay, not a problem. Been getting that question a lot. For this, the state includes rooms and spaces that we do not. For example, the state counts pre-K rooms. The state will count special education rooms, any career and technology rooms, depending on if it's high school or middle school. They will also count alternate spaces like pull-out rooms or something of the like in their capacity calculations. The second thing that's different between state and local rated capacity is the teacher-student ratio that they use to calculate or estimate the capacity for the room. So for example, the pre-K is 20 students. Kindergarten, I can't remember exactly. I actually have a spreadsheet that says what it is. Do you have it with you by chance? There's slight nuances in the number of students calculated between ours and theirs, which also adds up to the difference. So overall, I can't tell you if a school is higher or lower, state versus local, because it's all over the map. Some schools, local versus state is very low and very different. Fulton, I was looking at today, is a good example. We rate it as 788 school. The state rates it at 540 some odd seats. So yeah, there can be significant differences in the rated capacities. So for local, for how we calculate the program space, we look at the elementary school level, all of the kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade rooms. We don't count special education rooms or pre-K rooms. And we use our formula that the board approved a few years back for kindergarten, first and second, and then third through fifth. At the middle school level, we count all the teaching stations that are available in the room, in the school, and we have a multiplication factor of 0.90 because we recognize certain spaces can't be used all the time. They're specialty rooms, so you might not be able to teach an art room, say, for example, in a science room or a tech ed room. Same at the high school level. There was a extensive study with the capacity back in 2015, I believe, at the high school level. And it's very similar. We count the teaching stations at the high school level, local, but we use a multiplication factor between 0.80 and 0.85. And the real difference is some of our schools have smaller core capacities, such as cafeteria space and the like. So we identified those schools, and that's how we do it. Essentially, we are tougher on ourselves when it comes to capacity. If you want to compare the two, we're a lot more conservative when we are counting our spaces.
okay. The reason I'm asking is because, I've heard, and this is going to carry over into
Yes.
the APFO side of things. And I will just say that I like, how can I put this without insulting the state? We know our schools better than
That is correct.
I think anybody, and I think that is a good thing.
And the other thing I failed to mention too is if we want to change our capacity, we have to make that request through the state. So there's a process for that, and there's a process for everything. So
Yes.
there's a process for that as well. So we here in Howard County, like I said earlier, we monitor our capacities anytime there's an addition, anytime there's program changes, something substantial enough, we'll recalculate our capacity, so we have that flexibility at the county level in order to do something like that.
So basically, there really isn't a loss of state money.
No. Because what we do is we compare the state-rated capacity when we're looking for funding. We compare this, they have a spreadsheet that we use. We put in our projections. We compare our projections to the state-rated capacity 7 years out for the particular school and the surrounding schools that we're looking for.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
I really
welcome.
appreciate it.
No problem.
I'm going to ask a couple questions. Do we have a chart that has all of our schools, what the state-rated capacity is and what our current?
Yes.
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 Can you
Would you like a copy of that?
send it to
Yes.
everybody,
Sure,
please?
great. And it also has a cheat sheet of what the differences are.
And the nuance in what you were just saying is that when we check to see whether we are qualifying for state participation, we check the school and its surrounding schools.
Correct.
So in Howard County, would it be accurate to say that the fact that we still have capacity in Marriott's Ridge and Glenelg does not limit our ability to qualify for state participation for a high school that might end up in Elk Ridge, where its surrounding high schools would be Mount Hebron, Howard, Centennial,
And Long Reach.
and Long Reach, all of
Yes.
which are significantly over capacity, right? So the fact that we are going to have some seat, some place we could stick some kid in for the next 8 years is not really the deciding factor on whether we qualify to get state participation for funds for a school in Elk Ridge or
Yes.
that area.
We have to basically prove to the state that we have a need for seats in the region that we're planning on putting the school.
And would it be fair to say that we have a need for seats in the region that is?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so now, I have a meeting, Dr. Altwerger and I meet with the county executive on a fairly regular basis, and he's getting a little sick of it, but I happen to be of a mind that we need our new high school now. I think, in my view, the feasibility study proved that even if we did move everyone all over the county to fill the capacity in the west, it doesn't really solve our problem.
It's insanity.
And so what we need is a new school. So what I have asked for is, I've done it by hand, I don't trust my calculations, but I have a visual aid. Using, this isn't my colored one, never mind. I colored it in myself, but thank you for the color-coded one. I would like to be able to demonstrate for the county executive and for the other folks out there who have this idea that we do not have sufficient students to fill a new high school right now in that vicinity. The calculations based on the way that we are to be consistent with the way that we do calculations that line up with the polygons that I gave you lists of for today, not 7 years from now. It was 24 from 17, 7 years.
24.
Because I'd like to be able to, instead of saying to him, I promise you, I added these up and they all add up right, I would like to have our official WIFR produced or whatever printout that shows if you were to put a high school right here.
We would actually have to change the delivery date of that high school in order to show that high school, say, being implemented in 2018.
How hard is that to do?
We would have to, I would have to check with my staff member who's out of the office this week. He would probably have to recompile the software in order to make that change, but I don't want to put words into his mouth or anything like that, but I can find out.
Well, see, this is what I'm confused about, because I don't want to ask for something that cannot be produced. But when we have our work sessions, if we sit here and say, can you move this polygon to there, this polygon to there, and this polygon to there, and show me what that looks like?
We can do that.
Within minutes, there will be just a
That's
lovely.
that's because the way the software is set up, it's being programmed to say these certain capital projects, like for example, Ellicott Mills Middle School, Dunlogan, are going to come on in this time frame. So that's how the calculation works. So what we would have to do in order to see, like if we would push the high school up, right now the software is programmed for 2024 because that's what the capital budget had outlaid. We would have to change that assumption in the computer is basically what I'm saying, to find out if we wanted to open it in 2022. So then, or what have you, like
Yeah, that's a lot more complicated than I think what I'm asking for.
It
Because
is.
we're talking about the same thing that we're talking about redistricting. If we were going to say, just pretend that I want to see how this would look if we were going to redistrict for the school year of, starting in August of 18.
we would okay, so it's the WIFR that everyone loves.
Or loves to hate.
is a Fox Pro system. It is written on code. That's why I say it takes a little bit longer than any kind of Windows software to change it. So we have to go in and we have to change the database that says we want to open the date of the school from here to here. And then we just recompile it. It takes a few minutes. It could take an hour. I would just have to check. So if you give me a year that you want to test it, I can go back with my staff person on Monday when he gets in the office, and I can ask him to recompile it, recompile the whole, the system to say, instead of this capital improvement project being in this year, make it this year, and then it can populate based on this, whatever scenario
So when
is
we're
given.
doing the work sessions for redistricting in a few weeks, and we say, okay, here, move these polygons around to see what this would look like for attendance areas for the next school year, you can do that without
Because the software has whatever capital improvement we're looking at in the year that it's supposed to open. So the new high school is supposed to open in 2024, which is what's in our capital
Okay.
improvement budget. So
How about instead of calling it the new high school, you just move the polygons so that this bunch, just these polygons call it Howard High School. These polygons call it Long Reach. These polygons call it Hammond. I mean, I think that I can demonstrate the desired effect without, I can mark out the names of the high schools and write down the
You're looking to see if the applicable polygons have an adequate high school population to serve that attending area,
Right.
correct?
what I'm trying to demonstrate for the county exec, so that I can be, and we can all be saying, we need the high school now. We need the funding now. You need to put it in your 2019 capital budget, and we have the students now. They are operating under a notion that, they're telling people, oh yeah, they've got a high school in the budget a few years from now. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Well, what are we supposed to do with all these kids until then? And a lot of us don't think sticking them on a bus and sending them out to wherever. It's like, okay, I don't want to say a word, but
We will.
I'll figure out another way of doing
We will be able to
it.
get the data.
well, because.
I'll figure out.
We will be able to.
Yeah, I'll figure out a different way of doing it
Well, 'cause
without using the WIFR.
Seriously, I mean, I have yet to be able to reproduce the same result twice because I don't.
I'll try and figure out a different way of not using the WIFR to get what you need.
I would really appreciate that because this is all interrelated and we have to have something to show that, we really do need this high school. We need it now. And it's an election year. Let's use that to our advantage. Okay.
I'm going to take a risk here because I'm not the computer person on the dais. However, that being said, one of the things that the board has to do is provide staff, as such as yourselves, with the tools you need. I have not been in the workplace for 16 years, and we were using Fox Pro and Code back then. Now, I'm going to make a scary leap here that we've come a long way from Fox Pro, and I believe it's on a Windows XP too.
Yep.
Yeah,
Virtual.
okay.
virtual XP.
Hot dang.
mode.
Okay, so here's my question.
What do we have to do to give you a 21st
Bingo.
century?
I mean, because I really think it would behoove all of us so
Thank
that we
you.
can get the data we need.
Can I just say, first of all, thank you. So, okay, so I want to say that we have actually, I'm going to be honest, we've actively been searching for a replacement. The issue that we're finding is there's really no off-the-shelf tool that we can use, so we have to make a modification somewhere in its programming capacity in order to do what we do with it. All those great numbers, everyone loves to know utilization right away, that's easy to find in another software. But demographic information, all of that other stuff that we take so advantage of with how we calculate it, is not off the shelf, because the program that we use was written by our own staff for our own need. And so in order to find a off the shelf replacement, I can tell you we've looked extensively for at least as long as I know, and we can't find it. So we have to either start at a place that we know exists and then try and work with what we got, and then hopefully get a contract or something out there to redo the interface so that we can get all the wonderful information that everybody has grown to love and use through the process. And I'm not trying to be flippant or anything
No,
like
no,
that.
no.
We were just, we have grown accustomed as a school system. I can tell you what we have, Montgomery County doesn't have. And my equivalent in Montgomery County has to do his calculations by hand. There are other municipalities out there that they're kind of jealous of what we have. It's 20 years old, we recognize that, but for us to go to, ESRI, which is who we use for our GIS system, they don't even have a tool. So we would have to go to them to say we need to customize this tool because we've got.
What if we just have why don't we hire somebody have some high school kid, write a new one?
So we had interns actually this summer. And as part of one of our interns, he did a couple of model builds for us that actually uses our GIS system to do the things that we love, the demographics and walk zone calculations, those things that we hadn't been able to do in the WIFR. So he built a model for us. So it is possible. We used one of our interns for that, and he ultimately will get credit in his graduate level work for producing this. So there are
What
ways.
he produced for you does something that WIFR doesn't do.
Yes.
So we still, that's great, but what we need is to make a new WIFR.
Well,
We haven't had that great of luck with our off-the-shelf stuff as far as
Other
cost,
things.
containment, because by the time we customize it, we could have written it. By the time I've been trying to get this information, we probably could have written it. So it's, what do we have to do? What is the process that the board would have to go through to arrange to get the software made, designed, written, coded, whatever I don't know the.
Just, yeah.
I mean, because from what you're saying is that what we have that's 20 years old, which is kind of cool that people still would want it. That being said, maybe what we need to do is write the program and sell it to
then
everybody
license it to
else,
everybody
and then
else.
we can buy 20 high schools.
Yeah, the
I mean,
companies we talked to were pretty impressed with our redistricting software. They try.
Well,
they were
we just have to move
they
it
were
to
like,
the right
wow.
century.
Well, they
Yeah.
should, don't let our parents talk to them because but isn't the WIFR part of where the demographic information that we've been having some issues where we
Just the
finally.
one. Just the one. The other, actually, we use our ESRI software to calculate and do the before and after. Because that actually was not programmed in the system. That came after the WIFR was created. So we had to use our other tool, which is our ESRI software. And that's how we calculate the other information.
Well, to circle this back to the capital budget, in order to get a capital budget that accurately and adequately reflects what our actual needs are, we need to be able to demonstrate with a high degree of credibility and confidence in the numbers what exactly our student capacity is. And unless the backup the polygon numbers that I got are wrong. We can fill Mount Hebron to just under bursting, Howard to 1,400. A high school in the Elk Ridge area, depending on how you define Elk Ridge. I would have said before I did that exercise, that maybe a 1,400 or 1,500 high school, but no, we need a 1,600 high school in Elk Ridge. Yeah, if we could get the numbers and reduce Long Reach to where it wouldn't be bursting, and so on. I mean, even if you just do the simple calculation of how much is Mount Hebron over, how much is Centennial over, how much is Long Reach over, how much is Howard over. Yeah.
So I'll look tomorrow to see if we can calculate it a different way and just kind of go around the software that we have.
Because the end game here is Mr. County Executive, County Council. The state is not our funding problem because we qualify with regional and how many people we have. Our funding issue is that you all have been saying, we don't think you should build another high school till you really need one. We really need one. Here is the proof. And this is when we need it. We need it in the 2019 capital budget. 5 years is, man, it's going to cost us a fortune in buses to move these kids around. Thank you. Oh, Ms. French.
It's not about high school.
That for the redistricting? No, but
No.
but for the capital budget, I'm talking high
It's
school.
about the capital budget.
Yeah.
Okay, another idea. Mandatory full-day pre-K is coming. And we had a great deal of difficulty putting on additions to every single elementary school for full-day kindergarten. And so we have some 10-acre sites on reserve in Columbia specifically. And I would really love if staff, and maybe it's not really school planning, but it's staff, to look at whether or not we should consider a different model for pre-K and have regional pre-K, because the amount of classrooms to be added to every single elementary school, I don't see how you're going to be able to do it. Whereas we could create at least 2 or 3 in Columbia alone as regional pre-Ks with state-of-the-art facilities and a really focused staff. Now, I know that when this was explored, like 15 years ago, principals really wanted the students in their buildings as soon as possible so that they could be identified and special ed services could be provided if they were needed. But we're at a breaking point as far as, I mean, even parking space. Talbot Springs had no parking as far as I was concerned. The teachers were parking along the street and are until they get all the extra parking with this new school. So I really need to bring this up as an idea that I think staff really needs to look at again and say, should we consider this? And you're nodding your head yes, but I don't know
We
what
have
that
been
means.
We
thinking
have
about
been
this
thinking
for a
about this.
long time. We remember, some of us, the pain of the kindergarten expansion over
That
5
was
years.
painful.
And how it affected every building in the system.
And the
We-
children were moved, fifth graders were moved out to relocatables.
Correct. And we do realize of the benefit that we'll pick up in having centralized regional centers. We do currently own two 10-acre parcels in the Columbia area, and with a third one that might be under consideration as compensation from Howard Hughes for Hcpss 17. So we do have 3 locations within Columbia proper for regional centers.
But I know this is a curriculum issue and this is an administrative issue. And it's a very challenging one, but I think it's time to look at it again.
May I make some?
Absolutely.
I think I agree 100%. I think we need to be forward-thinking in that, but I think also that we need to also look at the recommendations from the statewide committee on that. Recently, I was asked to testify and speak in front of them as a result of the implementation of a model. It might be something different, that's a collaborative model that would take into account not just the public school offering, but then the Head Start offering and then private school offering. And the time of which it's going to take us to get to 100% is going to be a long period of time. The capital projects will have a strong basis in that, but I do believe that we're going to have to look at it based upon the regional aspect to meet that need. I was here when we did the
Yes.
implementation of the full-day kindergarten and the capital projects that it took to get to that level and the incredible cost of which that had. But I think the delivery model is going to be a much different model than what the full-day kindergarten yielded back then. So I think it behooves us to look at it from a planning purposes of where we could place the regional centers, how we prepare for that, and when that would come to fruition. But I think it's wise to look at it.
Thank you.
Ms. Delmont Small.
The other unfortunate reality, obviously, is money, which is we have a state that's pushing pre-K, but there's no money attached to it. So I think on a parallel track, both from a board perspective as well as a superintendent perspective, we need to be lobbying for the funding. And, look at creative ways and how to do it, because unfunded mandates are not good. And if we can't allow, I know you agree. We can't allow an unfunded mandate to dictate an inefficiency within our system. And that is, I think, the unfortunate road we're going down. The question is, how do we prevent ourselves from going there? So your creative thinking, I think, is very going to be helpful with this. We need to figure out a better way to do this because, as Ms. Franchette, it's coming. So, but we have to be able to figure out how we can best anticipate and make it work for Howard County, because what works here, or what works in Baltimore City or Baltimore County, every LEA has their particular way. And I just want to make sure that we continue to be able to do what's best for our students. So thank you.
Anyone else? I have one more quick thing. Relocatable classrooms. We discovered this year that we did not have time to order the kind that have bathrooms in them because we hadn't made a plan around those. And one of the ongoing complaints we hear, in addition, generally about relocatables, but specifically from teachers and from parents, it is extremely disruptive to the learning environment for any individual child when they have to go as a buddy with another kid to go inside the building to go to the bathroom. Then there's, of course, weather when they have to leave the portable to go into to go to lunch or a special or whatever. And I know that when my son was in a portable, he was in the 9-classroom portable at Pointers Run. It had its own facilities. Wasn't that big of a deal. It was, those other factors at least were not a problem. They could stay in their self-contained unit.
Self-contained.
And so we have, as far as I could tell, we have not budgeted for those kinds of self-contained unit add-ons in our relocatable classrooms. What do we need to add capital budget-wise so that all of these relocatable villages that we still are going to continue to have for a while can be turned into these self-contained units?
Are you talking about the single units or the multiple unit relocatables?
Well, just, not to, get anybody worked up, but let's say Manor Woods, they're going to have, what, 5 this year? 4, 5? I don't know.
5 total.
Right,
5 total.
right.
Instructional, yes.
Right. And we were not able to provide that 6th unit that would have been bathrooms and stuff to create. But wherever we have multiples wherever we have multiples of portables, I would like for us to try to arrange for them to be self-contained units so that especially our youngest kids do not have to go in and out. They don't have to take a buddy. They don't have to. So in order to do that, I assume that we're going to need more money than we have previously
correct.
budgeted. So when you're putting together your capital budget, I see it's I'm pretty sure that's what it says, is relocatable classrooms.
That's correct.
But, yeah, that was something that we discovered at the end of, well, when Dr. Martirano came on, that it was too late in the season to order, and the ones that we could get were, what was it, $175,000 or something for a unit with bathrooms in it?
Yeah, that was the rental cost for a year plus the sanitary piping
Right,
associated.
so if we make a decision as a, well, first we would need to know how much it would cost, and then we could decide as a board whether we want to make sure that anytime we are putting multiple units of portables on a school site, that they would be able to be self-contained. I personally would consider that to be a valuable investment. I think it's a big deal for these little kids to have to go in and out in the weather all day long.
So when you're saying self-contained, you're talking about having a portable for these units, or having a bathroom facility and single portables?
No, I think that, well, the ones I would start with, when we have 3 and 4 portables at a school, that they be outfitted with a bathroom facility that serves all 3 of them, kind of like at
Understood.
Pointers Run. And I'm, sorry if I have to go back to my own experience. But, because, one, well, I don't know if that would be, I don't know how you retrofit the one. And if we only have one at a school, then they can use that for something other than a pod full of second graders who, have to run in and out.
Is there a design element to that and the timeline? Because I'm not fully sure. I mean, I understand exactly what she's saying, but because we've been running so fast.
It's the ability to provide sanitary, sewer, and water to the.
But to design the whole structure.
You mean,
Is there
we were looking
the lag
into-
time on that, and how long does it take? Because that's what we were advised when I first came on board, that it would take a long period of time. We didn't put the order in quick enough and a variety of things. So if we want, say if we wanted to start off the next school year with that.
It also comes down to permitting too, and the ability to permit.
Right, okay, so there's-
So you're running water and sewer lines to these. I don't necessarily think single units come with bathroom facilities. I'm not aware of. Single units don't come with bathroom units. And the other thing for consideration too, I'm just gonna throw this out there, is sometimes when, I know a couple of schools were adding a portable, waiting a few years, they're fine, and then we add more. And so, we do have some schools out there that have 6 portables, but they were added over time. So there is an exorbitant cost to removing all of the infrastructure related to, say, a 6 individual, because you're talking over time, it's about $170,000 per. So you're going to take all of that infrastructure out and then replace it. So there is that cost too. I'm just
Well, let's
full
not do it that
disclosure.
way then. I mean,
I know, but I'm just saying that's how
there
some
are
of the
things-
situations have occurred. Yeah.
And, one of the things that we were looking into is that, like at Manor Woods, which
The
is
rent-
on a septic, tapping into their own stuff was not feasible for a number of reasons, but there are the ones that have their own little incinerator, that you can get. I mean, if there's a will, there's a way. We can, if a school has 6 portables and they have been plopped down in any kind of reasonable pattern, we could build an awning where the kids could get to it, to the, so that they can be connected. There are so many things that could be done, but it would all be dependent on the individual situation. But for tonight's purposes, it would need to be included in our capital budget if we're going to increase our expenses in order to provide that level of service to our kids.
We will make arrangements to include it in the cost.
Bill, before you do that, I mean, does the rest of my gang here feel like that's something that they think is worthwhile use of our people's time?
Well, I think it's an unfortunate reality, but I have to say that the reality is that these portables are not temporary. They become a fixture. And this goes back to, obviously, redistricting. This goes back to Apfo and all of those conversations, and the conversations that back to having really tough conversations with our friends over at the George Howard Building, that we need a short-term fix. Unfortunately, our short-term fix it's like the mother-in-law who doesn't leave. You know, it's here. We're stuck. We can't get her out. It's late. I don't have a mother. But no, I'm just saying that it's an unfortunate reality, but I don't want us to continue. We need to change our thinking process where we need buildings.
And wherever it is that, in whatever thinking we might want to have looked at, if it's going to involve capital funds, we need to give them some instructions.
Yeah.
So if anyone else is
I'd rather ask
interest-
for it and not need it than need, you know.
Is anyone else interested in exploring providing septic, sewer, whatever, bathrooms for the kids who are in portables? Not to do it, not just, because this is going to take time, you know, and I don't want to be, I can't ask them to go on a mission with only my interest in it.
I think it's good data for us to have with the data that you have, that we're also trying to pull as far as where that we have enough students for a high school, and then here's a portable solution, and please don't hate me. The exercise that the chairman is asking about high school would also be helpful to be done for elementary and middle as well at some point. I'm just saying, not maybe right now.
Yeah, that's not part of my meeting, so it doesn't affect me. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, you know, when you come up with your fix, keep in mind that you have opened a door for
I know.
others. Okay, thank you.
I understand.
So, anybody else have anything else they want to add to?
Well, you asked for our reaction, and I don't want to appear insensitive, but these people are extremely busy trying to prepare for the high school questions and redistricting, to add the whole wide-scale septic or bathroom facilities for relocatables. Do you mean for every elementary school that has relocatables now? Or
No,
for in
I'm
the
talking
future?
about the schools where they have 4 and 5 relocatables, like
Right.
where they have all the 4th grade out in relocatables.
But
They can
maybe-
arrange them so that they have a bathroom.
Well, but like that
But
one,
what
like
we-
Talbot Springs does have a bathroom.
Yeah, and see, that to me is not a pressing priority because our principals are genuinely concerned about that. And they've established, for example, to have the younger students within the building and the older students are in the relocatables. And there is planned time when everyone can go to the bathroom before going from specials back to the relocatable, et cetera. And so it is a concern. I don't want to appear insensitive to it, but given our limited staff, I'm not in favor of having them do that extra work right now.
Anyone else have a thought?
I agree with Mrs. French.
I'm just curious, what it would take? I mean, is it the type of thing where you go to relocatable.com and put in a quote, or, I mean, what's it take to figure this out?
We'd have to do an assessment of configurations of relocatables by location, and then we'd have to quantify needs. Do we put a facility in for 2 or more, 3 or more? And I'm being totally serious, and we can give you those numbers quite easily, what site by site and the configuration. Is it time consuming? Yes. Is it useful data? Yes, it's also useful data. So we'd have to, again, survey the sites. Not one is the same as the other.
I understand.
And make an assessment based on amount, configuration, and approximate cost.
And I wouldn't be asking for it right now, except that we're putting together our capital budget request, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Doesn't look like there's an overwhelming amount of support for,
Well, I mean,
That
if
effort.
we're asking for money for next year for relocatables, it would seem prudent to prioritize where would we put those, you know, in the coming year or two, and would we add greater value to a given community if we added this sort of capability? So as you're designing the budget, it seems prudent that we consider this as an alternative.
If you need to add,
Understood.
yeah. Or maybe just, that doesn't have to be an in-depth evaluation, just spitball a number add in there for 4 bathroom units that, yeah. I recommend everybody go online and check out the things that are out there. It's amazing. It's also expensive. Okay. Is that an adequate direction that is, if you don't take a whole lot of, don't get too in-depth in it, just,
I
We're gonna-
understand what you're saying.
Let me meet to have some further discussion.
Okay, great.
And report back to the board. I have some interest in this at the same level, but recognizing I do know that a lot of things are going on right now. And you can see, thanks for smiling.
yeah,
Keep smiling.
yeah.
But let me meet with you
Yeah.
tomorrow, or next week, to talk a little bit further about it, to flesh this out, to see what we can get at, to provide some form of at least a structure and understanding of it at a deeper level. I'm interested as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that we're all so flat out right now, because, just one more thing. Anybody else have anything? All right. Thank you very much. That's all you needed from us tonight, right? Was just some more
That's all.
stirring of the pot. All right.